Hello, and welcome to Lessons from the Screen. Today with me again is Vignesh, and we're going to talk about Cinema Paradiso. Vignesh, take it away.
Yeah. So, Cinema Paradiso, it's an Italian film. I think every cinema lover or a cinema geek would have obviously known about this film. And it was made in 1988 by this director called, I don't know how you pronounce his first name, that's Giuseppe Tornatore. And this film is special in, I think, many ways, and it kind of won the Oscar also in 1989 for Best Foreign Language Film, and also won, awards at Cannes that year and also at the Berlin Film Festival, I guess. I'm not sure. But it was a very critically acclaimed film of that time.
Okay.
And yeah, and it's, what do you say, again, every cinema lover needs to watch that film, or every person who wants to get into films should have some knowledge about the film. Yeah.
May I add, it's also a great time to talk about this movie because Mr. Cornetto,
Tornatore.
Mr. Tornatore, sorry. It's a great time to talk about the movie because Mr. Tornatore was recently in India, in Mumbai.
Yeah, it was his first visit in India. Yeah.
Last
week.
weekend, the Society of Film Preservation.
So it's apparently called the Film Heritage Foundation.
Okay, Film Heritage Foundation. Had a few screenings of this movie, of some really brilliant Italian movies. Cinema Paradiso on a Friday, and Once Upon a Time in America, and La Dolce Vita on Sunday.
Yeah.
And there were also interviews and panel discussions with.
And there was a masterclass as well with him and his production designer who worked on Cinema Paradiso. Yeah.
Which I didn't go to. I couldn't go to. You went to, right?
No, I also couldn't attend the masterclass.
Okay.
And neither could I watch the Cinema Paradiso screening. And there was a news that the Cinema Paradiso screening was kind of filled. I mean, there's this cinema hall which is one of the oldest in Bombay, which was found in 1930s. It's in Kolaba, which goes by the name of Regal Cinema. So it's a very sober kind of a cinema hall.
What do you mean a sobo kind of a cinema hall?
I mean, people in and around South Bombay are the ones who would go to that cinema. And the ticket rates are also cheap if you go for a normal movie there. Yeah. So
it's one of the hidden gems.
Hidden gems, yeah. And coming back, and one of the most important thing about the theater is it's, I guess, somewhere between a 1200 or a 1300 seater cinema hall, which is kind of the largest, I think, in
Which
Bombay.
is insanely huge.
Yeah, it's insanely huge. And yeah, for the Cinema Paradiso screening, the hall was like completely filled.
So you're talking 1200, 1300 people.
Yeah, there were almost that amount of people, some celebrities as well. I recall, I think R. Balki was a filmmaker, he was there with some other filmmakers also. And one thing that Tornatore also spoke later was that he entered the hall expecting that there would be some amount of people, and
of course, it's India.
He kind of would like start off the screening and then kind of leave, but after seeing so many people around, he chose to stay for the entire screening.
Oh, amazing.
Yeah.
Nice. So what do you think about the movie? You watched it many times before, right? I've only watched it once.
I watched it many times. I think it's one of those movies that is kind of therapy for me. Like whenever I kind of have a down point or I'm kind of looking for inspiration of some sorts, I kind of go back to that film. And if not the entire film, especially the climax scene of the film, which kind of I try to play on loop on YouTube.
Okay.
Yeah. So my experience with watching the film, I mean, the first time that I watched was back in 2017 or 18.
Okay.
And this was pre-COVID, and there was this cinema hall in Lower Parel, which goes by the name of Matadin Cinema.
Achha.
So that cinema was a bit, I mean, what do you say? So that cinema hall used to kind of host screenings every Sunday. So they used to show international films and world cinema every Sunday, and they had this timing of 12 p.m. every Sunday.
Okay.
And they used to show these films. So one of the first films that I was there was The Godfather. And after I think couple of months later, they had this film called as Cinema Paradiso. So I had no idea as to what this film is about. I just bought a simple, I think 112 rupees का ticket होता है उनका. I bought that and I attended the screening of the film without actually knowing what the film was about. And 2 hours later, after the film got over, and this film kind of brings you into tears. I mean, after you kind of end up watching the film, you are literally sobbing.
Okay.
I mean, after watching what has happened in the climax, we'll get back to that. And I felt that, am I the only crazy guy sitting in the hall and kind of sobbing and crying over whatever I have seen on screen?
Yeah.
But I find an uncle who is sitting next to me who's almost like 50, 60 plus, and he's also crying. He's also weeping. He has tears all across, all along his eyes, and I'm like, what is this? I mean, even I've moved. I'm a 21-year-old guy, and there's this 50, 60-year-old man who's also kind of moved by the experience of watching the film. And after getting out of the cinema hall, and there's this long walk that I take from the cinema hall to the nearest railway station, and it is constantly playing in my mind. What is this? I mean, what have I watched? So it was that sort of an experience after watching that film for the first time. क्या हुआ?
Just checking. Okay. I think I have done the great cinematic crime, the greatest sin of cinema. I did not watch the movie in one sitting.
Okay.
I watched it in 3 sittings. Maybe that's why I didn't cry in the
After the climax.
Yeah, in the climax. Yes. The movie is very well written, very well shot. I think don't watch a movie in multiple sittings. Not a good idea. In my defense, I'm practicing for a half marathon, so I have to sleep early.
Okay.
So one fine day I started, and I think 30 minutes into the movie, I was struggling to keep my eyes open because it was almost 10 p.m. And I was like, okay, sorry, I have to sleep. Can't help. I think let's start from the start. Yeah, did you notice the movie is in 16:9? By the way,
No, I don't think. No, I didn't notice that.
it's
It's possible, yeah.
It's either 16:9 or slightly taller, 16:10-ish. I think it's 16:9,
Okay.
and which is weird.
Okay.
Mostly movie is not shot in 16:9. Older content, very old content is 4:3, or it just moves to CinemaScope.
Okay.
It's very weird that a movie is 16:9, or it could just be a
So
master.
I think 16:9 is also pretty much close to the other aspect ratio, which is I think 1.87:1.
Yes.
So these I think are pretty much close. And I think since it's a very old movie from the late 80s, it could have been shot on 1.87:1. And kind of now when you watch it on a laptop screen
On a 16:9 display.
Yeah, so it might
It looks like a 16:9.
Yeah, it might look like a 16:9.
Yeah.
Because those two aspect ratios are very much close. in
Because
terms
I felt it's not exactly 16:9. There's some black left, but
the little much on the tops and the bottoms.
Okay. Okay. The whole kid scene in this thing is very cute. You know, those clips of when we initially met Alfredo.
Yeah.
That kid scene is very cute. It's like he's like, I don't want to give you any film or anything. But the kid is like, please. Yeah, I think that's a really cute scene. In fact, the first half of the movie is full of cute things like this.
Cute
Like,
things, yeah.
these are kids. They're very mischievous. They tie the shoelaces of someone. Like, it reminds me of my childhood. I was a very mischievous kid. It's like my parents used to get complaints about me all the time. All the time. True story. My mom says, when I was very young, LKG, UKG types, I don't remember this, but my mom says, the teacher used to complain,
Okay.
your son is very talkative. Okay. I'm like, hey, that's a normal complaint, big deal. So what the teacher used to do, she used to tell me, get up from the bench, come and sit on the floor next to me. Apparently, I was so talkative. Few minutes later, I would start talking to the teacher. I would be like, your sari looks really nice. So the whole childhood part is so cute. It is so relatable. They tie the shoelaces. They create a ruckus. They get inside the theater without the ticket.
Without the ticket, yeah.
Great childhood.
So, yeah, I think
A1 childhood, would recommend.
yeah. So one thing, I mean, there are two things that makes that character very much interesting is, first of all, the writing itself. I mean, the way they've written that character. I mean, the young, I think what's the name? Toto. Yeah. Toto. So the young Toto version is written pretty much well. I mean, and secondary, another.
Seems like it is written by some adult who remembers his or her childhood very vividly. Because even the math scene, where you are told to do 5 into 6 something, right? First it's 5 into 5, then it's out of nowhere she asks what is 5 into 47 or 27 something. That's how I remember my maths classes being.
Okay.
कि यार अभी तो we were into 1 1s are 1 1 2s are 2. Why are you asking me what is 200 into 400? How does it make any sense? And then your parents are like, see, 200 into 400 is just 2 into 4, but with 4 extra zeros. And I'm like, that makes no sense. Hello.
Yeah. So this film, I mean, it's inspired from his early life as well. I mean, the director.
Okay.
So when I attended the interviews that he had done during the screening, right, recent screenings, so he mentioned, I mean, a lot of that younger version is inspired from his own life. So he also used to kind of spend most of his time in those projection rooms, having seen those films getting projected in those early times, I mean 1950s after the World War.
Okay.
So he's pulled in a lot of stuff from there. And also coming back to the character, where it is interesting is first the writing and second is the casting. I mean, the guy they've casted, I mean, the young Toto they've casted, I mean, that's a perfect casting that kind of also brings in the character very lively, the way he is on screen, portrayed on screen. So that's a very
cute kid who has bought in a... Besides just his only claim to fame is not he's cute. He's also done a very good acting.
Yeah. It looks natural on screen.
Yes.
I mean,
yes.
It doesn't look like as if the kid was made to act in front of the screen. I mean, I've had experience directing a small kid in one of my short films. So it's really tough to bring that performance, and especially kids of that age group who are like 4 to 6 years of age.
Correct.
It's very difficult to do that, but that's been pulled off really very well in this film, at least. Yeah.
I've also worked with kids a little here and there. The problem with having a kid act for you is that they're so young, they don't truly understand the concept of lying. When you're acting, you're basically lying in such a way that you're fooling yourself, you're fooling everyone. Right? Like when, you take any character, when Leonardo DiCaprio plays this guy in Wolf of the Wall Street, you know who he plays in Wolf of the Wall Street. In some interviews, I've heard that Leo has never done drugs or anything. Right, but if you see the Lamborghini Countach scene, right, you can't tell he has never done drugs. He's not high at the moment, right? That's what a good actor does. They lie in so efficiently that you believe in it.
Yeah.
And it's very hard to get that from a kid because they don't understand these folds and folds of lying. They understand basic lying. Ki, did you eat the chocolate in the fridge? They're like, no, I didn't eat the chocolate. That's the only lie they don't understand these multi-folds of lying. Also, watching a foreign language movie is a lot of work.
Okay.
I've realized when you're watching an English movie or a Hindi movie, a language that you understand, you speak, you can kind of zone out for a bit.
Yeah.
And still hear and understand what is going. Yeah, no, not in a foreign language movie. If you didn't read the subtitles,
read the subtitles. Yeah.
Go back. Read again. Okay.
Yeah.
I think I'll have to watch this movie another time, so that I'm not just reading the subtitles and actually looking at what's going on.
Yeah, but I think the film is not that complex if you kind of take a look at it. It's pretty much simple. I mean, the storyline is very much simple. It's just simple, basic characters. Also, the dialogue, if you see the subtitles,
simple dialogues.
Yeah, it's not that complicated. Like you need to focus fully and understand what is going inside the plot and stuff like that, because it's just an exploration of the life of these characters living in this small town.
This town is in Sicily, if I'm not wrong.
Yeah, I think in Sicily.
I could be wrong. It is a small town in Italy.
Yeah.
And it's interesting, when towards the end of the movie, when Alfredo says that you have to leave, you have to go.
You have to go. Yeah.
Yeah, you cannot be in the small town. It is. It is a fundamental human, at least something that us modern humans do. I don't think hunter-gatherers did it, but us modern humans, it's a fundamental thing, right? Everyone, every family member, some point or other, you leave your house, you leave everything behind in search of the very same things.
Yeah. Yeah, because see, the notion of nostalgia is tackled pretty well in this film. Because thematically, if you see the movie, it's all about nostalgia. And let's say you have a house, you're living there for like 10, 15 years, 20 years with everyone around. There's a huge family in and around you, your mom, dad, sisters, everyone, grandparents, everyone. So you're too much attached to these people and the place that you're living for such a long time. And that's what Alfredo tells him at the end, that don't give in to nostalgia.
Yeah.
If you want to move ahead, leave this place. Don't be here. Because if you stay here, you'll be here forever. And that's what happens with the rest of the characters, if you see. I mean, Toto is the only guy
who leaves.
Who leaves. I mean, then there's other small characters like his girlfriend or some other guy who's leaving for Germany who don't return back to the town. And they have
owners of the theater.
I mean, the owner stays back also. I mean, he's also there at the end.
He doesn't leave
the town. So they are giving into nostalgia and staying in the same place because they fear that they're not prepared for the outside world, or they might not survive in the outside world. I mean, that's a basic human tendency that every person has within them. Because we are so used to it, or we are so used to the place that we are living in, that we become kind of insecure when we kind of try to get out of that place. And that has been conveyed very beautifully in the film. Because if you see, Toto doesn't leave that place, he wouldn't have become that maverick, great Italian director. So that's been put in very well, in the film. That's the crux of the film.
I think there's another way to look at it. Recently, I've also watched this movie, Dunki. Dunki. We're here not talking about that movie, but the gist of it is that there's these bunch of guys from India, from Punjab. They put in a lot of efforts to go to England. And eventually, a few decades later, when they're old and one of them has a terminal illness, they want to come back to Punjab. And now it's very hard. Initially, it was very hard for them to go to England. And now that they've been living there, they are refugees over there, they're citizens there. It's very hard for them to come back to Punjab. That very well shows the dilemma of human life. First you want everything, You want to go out, you want to win the world, and when you've done all of that and you're old, you don't want any of it. You just want your own loved ones and your comfort and just peace.
Yeah, that's the case with most NRIs.
Oh well.
I mean, they want to spend, like, just off the topic.
Yeah.
They kind of want to spend a lot of money into education and kind of go work for the huge corporates outside there. And then after certain years, they realize kind of, okay, I'm losing my family, I'm losing my motherland. I need to go back there and again get back to India. I mean, that's the case nowadays that I see mostly around. Yeah. Coming back to Donkey.
No, coming back to the idea that where was I going with this? I was trying to tell ki even when Toto comes back, towards the end of the movie, when he comes back, he has he's so glad to see his mother again.
Yeah.
He is so glad to be amongst the people that he grew up with again.
Yeah.
And I completely forgot where I was going with the point.
Okay. Yeah, so you were pointing out two perspectives. So I get what you're trying to say there. So the first perspective...
there's this... where I was going with this is... so Toto comes from a small town. I come from a small town. As somebody who's from small town, you realize that in order to make a living, maybe not to make a bare minimum living, I think in a lot of small towns, at least in India now, you can make a living. A lot of my friends from my school do. It's not like it's not possible, but if you want to have access to stuff or access to the kind of life that people in Mumbai or Delhi or Tokyo or London or any of these metropolitans take for granted, you have to come to Delhi, Mumbai, London, Tokyo, Paris, any of these metropolitans. If you stay back in a small town, you might make a livelihood. Your quality of life would not be, most probably will not be, the same as of somebody who's making the same kind of money or putting in the same kind of effort in Mumbai, Delhi, London, Toronto, whatever. Whereas I have very often noticed my friends in Mumbai who are born and brought up in Mumbai. They didn't have to leave their school friends behind. They didn't have to leave their college friends behind to live in Mumbai, to have the same quality of life as you and me who now live in Mumbai. And that is a challenge always faced by somebody who's from a small town. That's where I empathized with Toto. You wanna make throughout he loves film, right? He loves ye. But if he stayed in that town, he would be never more than a projectionist.
Yeah, correct.
Because he went to Rome, he got to become that huge film director.
Yeah.
Otherwise, he would have stayed a film projectionist.
Projectionist, yeah.
That is the thing. For somebody who is from small town, you have to leave your family and your childhood friends and all your memories behind if you want to get there.
Yeah. So that's the cost of trying to become something, right? So you have to kind of move on and not kind of stick to whatever you have. And I see, I mean, most people, because I belong to this city and I've been born and brought up here. So I don't get that feel of that I have to leave this place and go somewhere else to kind of work on. But at the same time, since I've been born and brought up here, it feels more easy and what do you say? It becomes more easy for me to speak from that perspective and tell you guys that why not leave this place and go somewhere else.
True that.
Because I don't have that sense of leaving this city or this town and go and work somewhere and kind of become successful in that field or something like that. But people who are coming from those small towns and those tier 2, 3 cities and come to a place like Bombay or a Bangalore and kind of work hard to kind of achieve that thing and then move on in their lives and become something big, that's a different thing.
I think this movie also, for me at least, it helped me. It drowns in a lot of nostalgia about your own childhood and your year. There's this scene when They're kids. They go in the movie theater without tickets and they're watching the movie. Eventually, the movie is over. Everyone is leaving, and his mom is just standing there outside.
Yeah.
And
Yeah, because she doesn't want him to kind of delve into that.
yeah. And also,
movie
he was
space.
supposed to go and buy something, right?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
instead of doing that, he went and he watched the movie.
Yeah.
And he's just as a very embarrassed to see his mom. He's just smiling and he's not saying anything. So, again, relatable.
Yeah, because
I didn't used to go to theaters, but I had this evening slot, this time in the evening where I was supposed to go out and play, and I was supposed to come back home by before the night falls, before it starts getting dark. I was supposed to come back, and I was, as I said, I was a very notorious kid. Never came back home before nightfall. Never. There were times when my mom had to come looking for me, and this is back in early 2000s, right? There was no phone.
Yeah.
So there were landline phones. So like there were a few houses my mom knew. Like there were a few friends I had. She would ring them up. Sometimes they were with me, and even their moms was like, "Acha, udhar bhi nahi hai." Where are they then? This movie gives you a lot of opportunities to delve in your own childhood nostalgia like that.
Yeah. Yeah, because in the context of the movie, if you see, it's different. From the mother's perspective, she doesn't want him to kind of get into that projectionist kind of a zone, or get him to watch those movies. Because if you see from her perspective, she's lost her husband, right, in the war.
That is another thing, right? Her acting is so phenomenal.
Yeah.
She has very few lines. She doesn't have a lot of screen time either.
Yeah.
But she has conveyed that pain, that helplessness so well. Of a mother who's trying to be the best mother she can be to her son.
Yeah.
At the same time, she doesn't know about her husband, right?
Yeah.
Like he has gone for a war. He, at the start of the movie, he's assumed missing, but not dead. And you don't assume a missing loved one to be dead, right? Till you know it for a fact. But deep within, you know it somewhere.
Well, yeah.
If somebody has been missing for long enough, you know it's very. Every day goes by, it's less and less probable they'll show up again. But you don't want to accept it. You don't want to acknowledge it. And with the very few lines she has, she has portrayed it so well.
Yeah, because there's this, the sadness of losing her husband. So there's this, midway somewhere in the film, so there's a news screening that happens in the theater that some people are dead in the war.
Yes.
And then there's a single shot I remember of his mother and Toto in one of her hands, and I think the girl child in her arms. Yeah. And there's a single tracking shot that's going on, and this woman, she's walking, and with the kids in her hand. And in the background, you see those buildings, establishments, all kind of torn off, and everything is in the ruins. So in the background, it highlights the war that has taken place, and then this character who's walking with her sorrow and sadness in her mind and heart. Yeah. So that's been conveyed very well without any kind of dialogue or anything. Because that's the only instance where it is shown that she's lost her husband and she's in that sorrow fully.
But you see her frustration throughout the movie. You see that that inner sadness throughout the movie.
Yeah, because it's difficult for her to kind of upbring these two kids, right, without having a husband.
Of course.
Because it's also, if you see, it's that time period after the war, early 1950s. The financials or the economics of the country is not that.
Yeah, most of Europe was not good.
Not good, because and Italy kind of almost in the ruins after the war, right?
Yes.
They've been kind of depleted. There's no jobs. There's no money in and around. How do you
I
survive?
was a little confused. Were they showing this after the First World War or the Second World War?
It's the second, because the movie takes place somewhere around the late 40s, early 50s. It's that time period.
Okay.
Yeah. So towards the end of the film, when the older Toto comes back, so that's pretty much the present timeline of the film, which is the 1988 or 88 or that time, because that was when the film was made. 30 years later.
Do you think the end of the movie was abrupt?
No, I don't think so, because after multiple watchings, you get an idea of why that end was that end.
Okay.
So if you remember, the end is, it's very much abstract, right? But you still don't know what's happening at the end, right? Like it's very abstract in terms of, because it's just this guy, the older Toto, who's sitting
Watching
in front of a screen, and the projectionist kind of plays back whatever reel he got from Alfredo.
Yeah.
So Alfredo has given those reels to his wife, saying that give this to Toto whenever he kind of returns back.
Yeah.
And Toto returns back to the village for his funeral, and she gives him those reels, and he kind of brings it back, and he kind of plays it in front of in that empty theater. And it's a series of these images that were not being shown in that small theater, right? And it was those, the cuts or the censored.
Now it makes sense.
Yeah,
Okay,
it's
I didn't
those.
get it at
Yeah,
that
it's
point.
those censored visuals that were never kind of allowed in that
Yeah.
cinema theater. In
Yeah.
Cinema Paradiso, right?
And now it makes sense because in the very beginning shots,
there's this
when that
priest.
father
Yeah,
tells Alfredo remove these, and the young Toto asks Alfredo, "Can I have them?" And he says, "Yes, they are yours,
Yes.
but I'll keep them."
I'll keep them. Yeah,
So it makes sense.
it makes sense.
It completes the arc now. Now I realized. When I was watching the movie, I was like, why is this compilation of people kissing each other?
Yeah.
Now it makes sense why.
Yeah, because if you see it from this point of view of the censorship angle, in your younger days or in your childhood, you're not allowed to do certain things, or you're told to avoid these things, or are these things being hidden from the adult people, right?
Correct.
Your family doesn't want you to watch those stuff.
Yeah.
Society doesn't want you to watch that thing or those stuff. But later on, when he's an adult and he sees those things, and it comes from a special person like Alfredo, kind of that hits on, right?
Also, I know who that father is. I know where he works. I don't know who the father is.
Okay.
I know where he works.
Where?
Do you want to take a guess? The Indian Censor Board.
Yeah, so you see in the film as well, the priest of the church acts as a censor board, right? Because I think at that point of time, films never had a censor board.
Could be.
I think
And a small town like that would have a priest.
No,
I could see that.
censorship actually came into, because the films that they showed were mostly American films and European films, right?
Yeah.
And censorship, I think, came somewhere between 60s, 70s. In those times, I think.
Okay.
So
I
censorship
know, I can
was not
see
there.
like in early times, a village priest would work as the morality control. So to speak. It completely makes sense.
Yeah, and also the term that he uses, for simple kissing or kissing scenes, he uses that term like this is pornography.
Yeah.
And I won't allow pornography in my town.
What do you mean? we don't have any pornography in the Indian theatres. We have amazing censor board.
The censor board
where
here,
the father now works.
so the Indian censor board functions according to the government, right? So that's a separate thing.
Okay.
And there's a separate, and in nowadays, I don't know what the conflict is between the censor board and the filmmakers. If again off the topic.
Okay.
So there's this film that was supposedly going to release on September 6 last month, called as Emergency.
Okay.
Which was
political here.
Yeah, so it was kind of directed and acted by Kangana Ranaut, right?
Yeah.
And that film got stuck in the censor board because of some anti-Sikh elements or some elements which are going against the Sikh guys in our country, and those guys kind of opposed, and it got stuck in the censor board, them not wanting it to release, even after Kangana being part of BJP government.
Yeah.
And she also kind of, put in some harsh words against the farmer protests that were going on in the country.
And now she's supporting the farmer protest. I don't understand politics.
So,
man.
I don't know. That's the dichotomy, right, between these two things. She's also a BJP
I'll remove this
MLA.
I'll remove this whole chunk.
Yeah.
The reason The reason they didn't allow emergency to release
हाँ.
is because it has anti-Sikh elements,
Okay.
anti-Muslim elements होता तो करने देते.
अच्छा.
BJP wants anti-Muslim elements.
Okay.
They're like anti-Sikh. Why anti-Sikh? Why anti anyone else when we can be anti-Muslim?
अच्छा ये सही में काटने वाले हो?
Of course. Of course. That is the reality. मतलब मुझे तो यही लगता है in my humble opinion कि मोदी was like कि यार हमें सिर्फ मुसलमानों की गांड मारनी है, बाकियों की गांड मत मारो तुम.
चलो.
एंड वैसे भी हरियाणा में इलेक्शंस आ रहे हैं. इलेक्शंस
अच्छा इसी हाँ they said elections के बाद they'll release it.
That's the shit. It's not because anyone gives a fuck about Sikhs. They are just another minority for BJP. Yeah.
चलो.
Coming back to the movie.
Coming back to the movie. हाँ, so censorship in the film, I mean, yeah, again, the element of the church controlling what should be shown in the theaters and not being shown in the theaters, I mean, that existed in that time as well.
It comes back as well very nicely towards the end when he comes back, Toto comes back from the city for a funeral of Alfredo. And he notices in the front father is walking with another little kid with him this time.
Yeah.
It's a really nice closure of. I think in this movie that's a very nice thing. Most things are given a very nice closure.
The recurring element, I mean, in terms of all these small characters as well.
Yeah.
So if you remember, there are I think 3 or 4 characters that keep recurring in the narrative.
Yes.
In terms of small elements.
Because that's how small towns work, right? I since I come from a small town, what happens is you don't have these D-marts and Reliance Marts and whatevers, right? You have at least when I was a kid, you had these small kirana shops, ration shops. The one we used to go to was owned by this father and his son used to work with him. And some days you would go, there would be father, son both. Some days father would have gone for lunch, son would be there. Some days son would have gone for lunch or buying stuff from the wholesale market and the father would be there. You know them, not just by face, you know them properly, right? Because you meet them every week or every other week. You meet the same guy. It's not like a supermarket where every time you go, there's a new person behind the counter, right? It's not like a supermarket where, for example, when I went to Ladakh as well, Ladakh, Leh is still a very small town. This is still true. The lady who gave me, who was at the billing counter last year when I went to Ladakh, was the same lady this year, right? In the same supermarket. Similarly, the hotel where we stayed last year is the same hotel that we stayed. Not the same hotel, technically, like another hotel, but like owned by the same group of guys, and the same guy at the counter, the same sleazy guy, not bringing us clean bed sheets and towels. It's a very different thing. You live there long enough in a small town, you get to know people, everyone, at least by face. Right, you know this guy owns the store. Like for example, from where I come from, there was this kid in our school, 2-3 years younger than me. His dad owned the only decent theatre in the city at that time. There were only 3 theatres in the city at that time. There was one very good one. One was okay, and one that showed those B-grade movies. This guy's father owned the nicer one.
Okay.
So that's how small towns work. Yeah, you know them. The same building where this guy used to live, I think they lived on the first, second floor. On the ground floor, lived a girl whose father owned like the biggest dairy in the city. Like you could buy, your Amul and these branded packets, or you could buy a local milk, the dairy for which was owned by her father. She was also in our school. She was, I think, a year senior to me or something. That's how small towns work. You realize, you recognize everyone.
No, because I like that aspect of I mean, if you mentioned the theatre guy, right? So, I mean, their aspirations as well is kind of limited, which is also good, and I'm not going in terms of a negative way. But the aspirations of these guys, I mean, they own a theatre in that space. They would want to make that theatre function well or expand it, staying within that city. Like they don't aspire to kind of make a multiplex chain across the country, because they're consumed by the thought of developing it within their town and being settled in that very town rather than kind of expanding it, which also is good if you
They
see,
lack that mindset,
no, I mean, it's not about lacking that mindset.
or they lack that exposure.
They
Rather.
like that exposure, or let's say they're happy with whatever they have.
Yes.
If we, they're not greedy. Like, I want to own 1,000 crore business, or I
This
want
is
to
a thing
do
I
that.
have realized. Living in Mumbai
Yeah.
or in any metropolitan,
We do become greedy.
we call it hustle.
We call it hustle.
I'm sorry, we are respected gentlemen. We are not greedy. We are hustlers. We are hungry. We want to conquer the world.
Yeah.
Bitch, that's called fucking greedy. That's called greed. That's called greed.
Yeah.
Say it with me. Greed.
Yeah, because see, I mean, let's say that theater guy you mentioned, right?
Yeah.
He might be earning, let's say, lakhs of money, let's say 10 lakhs a month, but he'd still choose to have kind of lunch and dinner with his family within that space, within that family. But let's say if there's a guy working in a city like Bombay and he's earning like the same amount of money, he'd still kind of neglect that idea of having dinner with his family and go to a fancy restaurant and have that money. And as a person that I mean, let's assume I have that leverage of earning that amount of money, I'd call it kind of, I'm capable of spending that amount of money
Yeah.
and going into that fancy restaurant and having that sort of a food rather than having spent quality time with my family or my near ones. So that's the difference I see between those people and the people who kind of belong to this hustle culture.
So now that I go to Ladakh,
Yeah.
it's a 2.5 hour flight from Mumbai, but it's a world away from Mumbai. It's a completely different place, completely different people, completely different climate. But the bigger thing than the climate and altitude and everything that stands out to you is people's mindset. People there have so little, yet they are so happy.
Yeah.
I feel in our metropolitans, in our hustle, in our hunger, in our urge to, achieve whatever you want to achieve, we have lost that quotient of peace. We have lost that quotient of satisfaction. We have a lot. An average guy, in my opinion, in Mumbai has a lot more money or worldly things than an average guy in Ladakh. But on an average, we are less satisfied, less happy.
Yeah, that's because of the kind of stuff we are surrounded with, right?
Because
like we are surrounded
if you
with
make 30,000-40,000 bucks in Ladakh, you can live a very happy satisfied life, and you will feel happy and satisfied because food is relatively cheaper. Especially if you we are tourists, so we go to, of course, the fancier cafes and stuff, and then the food is no longer cheaper. But if you are willing to go to a roadside dhaba, there we could have a two people meal for 120, 130, which is impossible in Mumbai. Impossible. Two people a lunch for 120, 130, and I'm talking really brilliant food.
If
I'm talking food where when they say butter chicken, there is butter and there is chicken. It's not just oil floating on top, which is what you will get in Mumbai if you're paying 100, 120 for a gravy. You will also feel more satisfied in a small city, in a small place like Leh, for example, because people around you are also making that kind of money, are also making 30, 40, 50,000. So your point of comparison is that. In Mumbai, you are living in the same city as Mukesh Ambani, who has Antilia, the world's most expensive private residence. He probably has 20 Rolls Royce and 40 private jets, and that's where your point of reference is, right? You're always comparing against that guy in your building who has a Mercedes, and you still only have a two-wheeler. Instead of thinking that I have a two-wheeler because I work from home. My commute doesn't exist, and my everyday travel is probably going to the gym and back, which is 1 kilometer each side. You should be perfectly content with your two-wheeler, but you're not, because you are comparing against the guy in your building who has a Mercedes Benz, or who has a BMW or a Porsche or whatever.
That's true, because subconsciously we are kind of falling into that trap or designing our lives in that way, that let's say I need to kind of have a cup of coffee, I would want to go to a bigger brand and have that kind of spending and then buy that coffee and kind of have that drink. Wherein you may not require to drink that sort of a coffee. You can kind of make it in your home, or let's say go to a smaller place. But since we give that reason that I have that spending power, I can do that, or I can buy that.
So, when I was in Ladakh, my iPhone died, and I had to buy a new phone anyways, and I bought a Samsung.
Okay.
And a lot of people were like, "Oh my God, what iPhone user goes back to an Android?" I'm like,
Yeah.
I do, because I don't want to put it on my credit card. I don't want to be in debt to buy a phone. When you think about it, an iPhone is around 1 lakh these days.
Yeah, these days. Yeah.
Or you can get the base 16, which is I think 70,000-80,000
Still
bucks.
50 plus.
I'm sorry, 80,000 is 1 lakh. Okay, shut up. It's like 1 lakh and 80,000. They are both 1 lakh because they are both ludicrously stupid amounts of money to spend on a phone, which will, by the way, never make you a single rupee.
Yeah.
But what are you going to do on your phone that is going to make you back money? I have friends who are social media managers. They have 20 Instagram accounts logged into their phones. They handle social media handles for restaurants, businesses, etc. I understand why they would spend 1 lakh on an iPhone. Essentially, for the same reason why I would spend multiple lakhs on a camera or on my editing lap machine, right? That is what it is for them. But I know 3 people like that. And I know at least 30 people who have an iPhone 15 Pro Max Ultra 2 terabyte gold desert titanium with a camera control. Just shut up, bro. There's like the rest 27 of you. Shut up.
No, these brands also, they have been kind of able to capture the customer's mind, right?
The customer's imagination.
Imagination, yeah. Because if they haven't done that, you wouldn't find people lining up outside the Apple store to buy an 16
the
Pro.
most the most mediocre, the most it's like, if like how do I explain you, if you made like a graph of how much better this year's iPhone is to the previous year's iPhone, the iPhone 16 probably would be the smallest graph. It's like, I get it, the first iPhone, the iPhone 3G would be the biggest graph, of course. And I'm also very aware of the fact that, as technology matures, it plateaus, of course. But that means you should not be buying a new phone every year because technology has plateaued. It's not just about the iPhone, it's about everything. Every field has that. Nike, Jordans do the same what iPhone 15 Pro Max Ultra Desert Titanium does for phones. Probably a Mercedes-Benz or a BMW or a Porsche does the same for a car. Probably Starbucks does the same or Tim Hortons does the same for a coffee. Probably Dolce & Gabbana does it for perfume. But you need to...
No, the fact is, I mean, even though, as you said, I mean, they might have not done much with the upgrades, they're still finding new ways to how kind of to sell the product. I mean, there was this article or something on the net that I saw. I mean, people lining up outside the BKC store for buying an iPhone.
Okay.
And I mean, there was a huge line. And then kind of somewhere in middle of this line, there was a guy who's still in the line, and he kind of orders the phone on Blinkit, and he gets that phone within 10 minutes.
No, it gets stupider. I have heard. There's a guy from somewhere in Gujarat, Ahmedabad or something. He flew down to Mumbai to buy the iPhone 16, some iPhone 16 variant, not sure the Pro or the whatever, from the BKC Apple store. I'm like, what are you? There's no Chroma in Ahmedabad? It is the...
That's how they've been able to...
It is the wave of consumerism, not just Apple. Let's not just blame Apple.
It's with everyone. I mean, every huge company or every...
don't get me wrong. Apple does it.
Everyone.
Samsung does it. Nike does it. Adidas does it. Starbucks does it. Hermes, Dolce & Gabbana, Rolls Royce, Louis V, all of them do it. It is the stupidity that we have decided to sell our souls for this.
Yeah.
So one thing I realize every time I go to Leh, there's a place in Leh called the Leh Market. It's a lovely place. There's stores on both sides. There's open space, paved cobalt paved roads. It's not a road because no cars or bikes or no vehicles are allowed there. Small patch where there's stores on both sides, and it's like ground floor is stores, first floors is cafes, and that's pretty much it. It's like ek do floor ka choto building. Stores, cafes, that's it. Benches in there for people to sit. Street vendors around the year for who are selling really lovely, cute stuff. Some of them are selling apples. Apples in Ladakh are like this tiny. They are selling like hand woven hats, hand woven socks, gloves. It's really helping the locals, the local community, the local vendors, because they are selling like these a hat for 100 rupees, a woolen hat for 100 rupees, pair of gloves for like 150. It's really cheap, you'll buy it. It's really nice quality wool, you'll love it, and it is helping a local. It's a nice quiet place because there's no vehicles, no honking, no risk of getting run over. It's a very nice, quiet, calm place where you can walk around, you can hang out with your friends, and you don't have to spend money if you don't want to. There is no equivalent of that left in Mumbai anymore. If you and me want to hang out, we have to go to a mall. Which is, a mall is nice, it is clean, air conditioned, but it is not a place where you ideally want to go to hang out. You'll have to spend there. Either you will end up spending because you will eat, or you will end up spending because you'll impulse buy something. It is like we have decided to sell this idea of community and a public square for capitalism.
Moreover, it's like these, I mean, it's the idea that these brands kind of want you to believe in, they're kind of incorporating this lifestyle that they say that if you don't live this lifestyle, you're gonna miss on a lot of things. That's what these major brands are doing. Like,
it's like the Matrix, you know.
It's kind of the Matrix thing. Like, if you don't eat in a McDonald's, you're missing on something, my friend.
Okay.
It's the same.
Where you're missing out on diabetes and obesity.
I
mean, missing out on obesity, lifetime of obesity. You know, it's like.
I mean,
buy a packet of French fries and get obesity free.
Obesity for free. Get diabetes for free, cholesterol for
100% off on cholesterol.
Because they don't show you the dark side of it. They just show you that, okay, you're sitting in a mall, you're eating those French fries, you're sipping in a huge cup of cold drink.
You mean ice and sugar water?
Ice and sugar water, that's it, So that's what they are.
Not my words, Steve Jobs' words. He said, do you want to sell sugar and water for the rest of your life, or do you want to make history?
I mean, what does McDonald's sell? Vada pav. Packaged like 10 rupees vada pav for 70
I can
rupees.
Appreciate McDonald's for what it is. It's not like I never go to McDonald's. If I'm traveling, I'm on the highway or something like that, or I'm at an airport, I'm hungry, I want to eat something. McDonald's is often my go-to choice. I can respect McDonald's for what they have achieved there. You have insert your favorite burger here and a set of fries and Coke. They taste exactly the same. They are just as clean. They are just as bad. They are just as mediocre. In Mumbai, in Delhi, in Toronto, in Japan, in wherever you have it. You have insert your favorite burger here. In Mumbai, it will not give you loose motions or food poisoning or anything. You have it in Toronto, it will not give you loose motion or food poisoning or anything. It is a safe choice to have. And I can appreciate that consistency. Doing that across thousands and millions of chains across the globe is not easy. But that doesn't mean you should wake up every morning and just go to your nearest McDonald's.
That's a bad choice.
Yes. So coming back to the movie. I don't know. I don't have a lot other to say about the movie.
So I have a couple of things. I mean, so you do see the change as well. I mean, with respect to the characters or how they are in one certain at the start of the movie and how they change towards the end. I mean, there are a couple of things. I mean, with respect to the primary characters, apart from the with respect to these other small characters apart from the leads. So if you see, there are these recurring characters. Like one is the couple who you see at the start of the film. They are kind of sitting separate. They kind of have that glance with each other. And then towards the end of the movie, they at one point they are married. Then they are having kids at the end. So you see them like 3-4 times in the film, and also at the funeral at the end. So that kind of highlights the general audience also who come to watch the movies. And that
which is also I feel like I'm really seeing small towns with rose-colored glasses, but I think that is a small town thing. Ki there are people who live in your general area. You may not know them by name. Because I remember as a kid there were people like I know like there's this uncle. I don't know who he is. I don't know what he does, but I see him going to work and coming back every day. And I remember ki pehle he used to walk. Or he used to take I remember there's this uncle, I don't know. He used to have a bike. There was a very old bike. It was a scooter, Bajaj Chetak. You know, one of those dhad kick wala. And it was in a very bad condition. And then I remember like down, I recall very well, like one fine morning, I'm up, I'm ready for the school and I'm waiting for the school bus. And I remember he's going in a Wagon-R.
Okay.
and he was like, nice, this guy's upgraded, he bought a new car. He got rid of his dhad Chetak. He's got a new car, nice. I think that's the thing about small towns. There are people whom you know by face because it's such a small town. There are so few people. You might not know them, but you know that this guy usually goes in a Chetak. Now he's got a new car, and you feel. I used to feel at least happy subconsciously for them. I'm like, it's a good thing.
No, that's there everywhere. I mean, if I recall from my memory, so there was this girl who used to study with me in one of my coaching classes back in 12th standard. This was in 2013 or 14 somewhere. And I happened to see her a couple of days back, and like almost 10 years now. And in those days, she was like one of those cheerful and happy-going girl who used to speak with everyone in the class, and that kind of a girl. And I see her a couple of days back, and now kind of she's a working woman, and I think she's also married, maybe having a kid now. And she's in that very serious. I mean, by the look of her, she's very serious. She's in that sari and kind of hustling back to her work, getting bus. And you kind of
child in one hand, child's bag in another hand.
And you kind of see. I mean, who this person was 10 years back, and now who she is. So you see it everywhere. I mean,
I think that is a brilliant thing about this movie. It makes you reflect about
your life. And that has been pulled off very well, I think, in that movie, because since they are also showcasing this small town, and they're not focusing on, because it's very difficult where you kind of focus on the town as a entity, right? They've kind of picked up these 4-5 characters. They focus on their lives, and who are also very different. I mean, there's this couple that we mentioned, and there's this guy who is supposedly the richest guy in the town. And you see that there's this difference. I mean, he sits on those balcony seats, and there's the poor guy sitting down. And in the initial first time you meet this guy, he kind of spits on these people, showcasing that class difference, right?
And eventually
he kind of gets those, I don't know, food or poop thrown on his face later in the further scenes.
Talking about movie theaters, I had this idea. We should do an episode on DDLJ. No, but there's a condition. We need to go and watch it in Maratha Mandir.
I watched it.
I haven't watched it in Maratha Mandir. That's definitely,
good
as a Shah Rukh Khan fan, that is something on my bucket list.
Good experience.
I shall do it, and then we can talk about DDLJ.
I mean, the cheapest movie ticket available in today's time. You can buy a ticket for, I guess, lowest is 10 or 15 rupees, and the highest it goes up to is 25 or 40 bucks.
Luxury for $40. A balcony one. Damn.
But again, if you go, I mean, there's just one show that runs
Yeah, that's
every
too
day.
like relatively early, right?
Yeah,
8 a.m. or something.
no,
right?
it's around 10 or 11 that
Yeah, I can do
goes in.
that.
And if
I
you
can
go,
do that.
you'd mostly find most of the people sitting around are like, I don't know, well, you call them the thieves, chain snatchers.
Oh, oh,
Those sort of people. I mean, you won't notice, but if you notice kind of very attentively, you might see some of these people. Drunkards, someone fighting with his wife.
at 10 in the morning?
That's the vibe of the theater, I mean.
Okay, might not be in my bucket list anymore.
But still, it's a good experience, I mean, watching that film. Yes,
I have
you
heard
should.
from a friend who lives, who used to live nearby, she used to live in Mumbai Central before she got married. So she says, throughout her childhood, she just used to like bunk college and school and used to go and watch the movie.
Yeah.
Because she used to live in the neighborhood.
With a boyfriend or?
I don't know. I didn't ask all
Because
the
that's
details.
a good place for
But
these
she
couples.
told me that there was a time. She told me that mostly people who come to this theaters are not very to Maratha Mandir for DDLJ are not the best people.
Best people, yeah.
Yeah, but this got really serious. I didn't know that. Like
I don't know why they are still running that movie. I mean, no idea.
just for the world record, I think so.
I mean, they've completed 25 years, I guess.
Yeah,
Couple of years back.
like a bigger world record.
Oh,
Not getting it. The bigger the world record, the longer we'll have it.
Yeah. Because I think if you the time I went and watched, there was still, 30-40 people in the theater. That still amounts to how much? Like, let's average
Pretty
on
much nothing.
20 rupees, average out 20-40 are like 800 rupees. I mean, that guy is earning 800 or somewhere between 500 to 1000 rupees for showcasing that movie every 3 hours, every day. That's the amount of revenue that these guys are making. And even if you account for snacks over there, another 500,000 bucks. That's what these guys. I mean, that's the reason also they don't maintain that theater very well.
Because what are you gonna maintain?
It's very shabby and dirty. I mean, if you go, but okay.
Coming back to this movie.
Again for the world record, it's okay.
Coming back for this movie.
Yeah.
Yeah. Any other points? Anything else you have?
Yeah. The one aspect is the score. I mean, the score really it's the backbone of the film.
Yeah.
I mean, if you remove the score from the film, I think this wouldn't have been that great a film. But the score plays a very important aspect of the film.
There's a lot of heavy lifting.
Heavy lifting, I mean, because what I loved about the film is like this. I mean, the score was developed pretty much before the production of the film started.
Okay.
And it's done by Ennio Morricone, who's one of the greatest music composers of that time. I mean, if you hear that, he's done the classic score for The Good and the Bad and the Ugly.
Okay, I know who you're talking about. Yeah. I didn't know this. Zoomer problem. I didn't know that film at a time used to be flammable.
Okay.
He shows that, right? The film catches fire and then eventually he shows, this doesn't catch fire.
Yeah.
I didn't know that. So when that happened, I paused the movie, picked up my phone and I googled. I was like, turns out there used to be these nitride films, which apparently have a very nice reproduction of color, especially of human skin. But they used to be flammable.
Flammable, yeah.
And
the
more you know.
Because Alfredo points it out as well. I mean, technology
always
comes when there is a accident or a mishap happening.
Yeah. What else?
Yeah, the score. I mean, the way it is kind of placed in the film has been. It's a very recurring score. And the first experience of watching the film, you don't actually get an understanding. Okay, this is a recurring score, because I noticed it after watching a couple of times.
Okay.
Like the theme. I mean, it's called the Cinema Paradiso love theme.
Okay.
So it plays out recurringly every time there is something related to cinema or his love story that is taking place, his love angle with the girl, right? And it's very subtly placed also in the film. And the moment it hits you is the climax of the film, because that is where I feel, I mean, I don't know in terms of music how it is being scored, but what I understand is like the score is kind of, it's expanded towards the end. It will actually hits you towards the end of the film.
Yes, yes.
Yeah.
It grows in intensity.
The intensity kind of grows at the end of the film.
Yeah.
And that kind of moves you towards the end. Yeah.
Call me a Bollywood guy. I think it would be nice if at the end of the movie he met that girl again.
Yes, so that's there. Right? That also happens. Yeah. So there are two versions of the film. You might not be knowing it, but yeah. So there's a very small story to it.
Okay.
So the first cut of the film was 2 hours 58 minutes.
Okay.
Okay. And so they had this idea of releasing it in Italy. Okay. And they made the film, they released it all over Italy. The first cut, which was like almost 3 hours long.
Yeah.
And that kind of didn't work because it was too long for the theaters at that point of time as well. And it was declared a flop at that point of time.
Okay.
And then what these guys do is, I mean, the producers, distributors, they say, why don't you kind of chop the film? Why don't you edit this out and make it less shorter so that it could work? But okay, and then
So this 3-hour version
yeah,
had him meeting the girl again.
yeah. I mean, in the future,
So how can I find this version of the movie?
I think go back to torrent. And I mean, that's the easiest way. But I think it's there on US UK Prime Video. It's there as well. Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, you might need a VPN to access
Yeah,
that.
yeah, yeah.
But
Okay.
I think it's there.
So the one that then they released has just that part chopped off.
No, I mean, a lot of things have been chopped. Like a lot of minute things have been chopped.
Italian people, what are you doing, man? You don't watch enough Shah Rukh Khan movies or what? The guy needs to meet the girl at the end.
Yeah.
That's the end.
Yeah, yeah.
It's not the end if the guy doesn't meet the girl. That's just Bollywood logic. That's the rule. That's a Bollywood rule. That's how it works. The guy has to meet the guy, the girl, they meet. The end. If they don't meet, it's not the end.
Yeah. So
That's the thing I've realized. Us, you and me, who at least me, who grew up watching Bollywood, my brain cannot comprehend that the movie has ended if the guy and the girl aren't together.
aren't together, yeah. Because we are designed now, because we are
Yes,
made
like-
used to watch those kind of
Exactly.
movies. कि you need a happy ending ना. अगर happy ending नहीं है तो people
ending
are
नहीं है.
disappointed.
It's
It's
not-
not an ending.
Yeah.
Open ending भी नहीं छोड़ सकते. People don't understand.
What is this, Hollywood?
People don't understand the concept of an open ending.
Or yeah, it's like people be
But-
like, bro, what the fuck?
वो क्या हो गया?
Yeah, what is this?
Couple of things about the film again is like it's a very personal film, I think. I mean, that has come from the director.
It seems like it is a product of love.
Yeah, it's a product of love and it's very much personal to him as well. Because I think it's his second movie that he's directed.
Oh, okay.
And after that, he's had a very long filmography. I mean, this was in 1988, right? After that, he's almost made 10-15 more movies. And I also watched one of his movies, which is called Malina,
Okay.
which was made in the early 2000s. And you see a lot of reflection of the cinema Paradiso in that film as well. So there's this thing that is said that a filmmaker makes only one film in his lifetime. And that could be his first film or second film. And all the other films that he makes is kind of an expansion of the first film. So that I think I strongly see that in cinema Paradiso. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And also the versions that we were talking about, the two versions, right?
Yeah.
The extended version, it's like extended version actually kind of provides a closure of his love story with the girlfriend. So in the extended version, there are a couple of scenes where he kind of again meets his girlfriend in the older version. Okay, I mean the old Toto. He meets the older girlfriend. They have a a closure moment with each other inside a car. And then they kind of kiss off with each other and all that happens. Yeah, that's there in the extended version. But they decided to kind of chop it off.
Need to find the extended version.
Yeah.
Okay.
So that's there in the extended version, yeah.
Anything else?
Yeah, because I think also kind of chopping that off, I mean in the 2-hour cut that most of us have watched, that kind of provides a mystery to the film. I mean, it's unsaid, right? I mean, a lot of things are unsaid in the film that we have watched. So that also kind of provides a mystery. Like, acha, this didn't happen. He couldn't kind of the life. I mean, life didn't go the way he would have expected.
True that.
And that also kind of justifies the person that he is in the present.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
he's also kind of has that baggage with him of nostalgia, right? And that also provides a justification of acha, he became a film director, he kind of makes movies. And that thought is there with most of the filmmakers, I mean.
Correct.
Because we bring stories from our lives,
Our
right?
lives are
and put it on
yes.
screen. So that also justifies that fact. Yeah.
Okay.
So that's, I mean, the core of cinema Paradiso. Yeah.
Okay. Anything else, or can we conclude?
I think we can conclude. I think we've covered pretty much from the film.
Covered the movie and a lot.
A lot. Yeah.
A lot. A lot. That is not in the movie. Yep. And with that, it's a wrap. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.
Yep. Thank you for watching.